What is up, Cane fans? He is Cam Underwood. He's managing editor of State of the U. You can follow Cam on the intercyber webs at Underwood Sports. He's a proud state champ alum. I'm Brian the Beast London. You can follow me at Miami Radio Beast. I am also a proud state champ alum. However, I forgot to wear any Canes gear. I'm wearing my Patriot shirt because we actually beat Buffalo yesterday, but that's neither here nor there. This is not an NFL show. We talk about the amateurs.
The pre-professionals.
Yes, exactly. Cam, I was in Tallahassee, and I'm still editing my my road video diary that I did for State of the U.
Yes, sir.
I probably overshot and over-delivered, so I'm having to trim that thing down. So we'll get that done, hopefully by tonight at like 3 a.m. But in any event, yeah, it was up. I was up there. God, is that school so far away? Oh man. But it was a fun time. It was a good game. It was a win, which is most important. And I think that's where I want to start, Cam, is there's a lot we're going to be able to talk about when it comes to this game up there, especially as it relates to the fourth quarter and it being more close than we wanted it to be. But if we take a step back, if we take a look from the proverbial 35,000-foot view, you beat Florida State in Tallahassee. You beat Florida at home. You beat USF. You beat Bethune-Cookman. And you are state champs. And you can't take that away, no matter how close it was compared to what you wanted it to be. It was a win.
It was. And sprinkle in, nationally ranked Notre Dame, last year's national runners-up, who everybody said was going to come down here and kick your teeth in. Beat them to start the year. So,
including me, by the way.
Yeah, including him. Not this guy. Not this guy. Yeah, man, it was the final score does not appropriately indicate or commemorate the butt whooping that we laid on them people.
That is true.
It was not anywhere near as close as the final score would have you believe. That was sheer and utter dominance by the Miami Hurricanes. And they did it, Brian, in a way that I had been asking for, and I have already written the recap piece on this on StateOfTheU.com. Explosive passing plays. We found them. Welcome back to the front of the line. Skip everybody. I know that it's lunchtime and everybody's queued up. No. I want you guys to get the first scoop of mac and cheese. Get an extra couple chicken nuggets. Welcome back. And it wasn't even as bad as it really was because you had 4 catches for like 154 yards and 2 tuds. And that's with another 52-yard touchdown to Malachi Toney being waved off for illegal motion, which is the correct call. But I hate that. But yeah, 5 completions for 207 and 3 tuds, including the negated one. Blur, baby. And it was so beautiful to see that back. And credit to FSU. Last year, FSU said, Cam Ward and company, number one, they're going up top. It's bombs over Baghdad against everybody. So we're going to sit back and cover 2, and we're going to make you grind it out and run the ball down our throats. And last year we said, cool, no problem, easy. Did it, blew them out. This year they said, we're bringing everybody and their mama into the box against the run. And we're going to dare you to go up top, to hit us with these explosive plays, to find somebody to go make some plays in a way that y'all haven't. Look, on the first drive, there was an incompletion to Malachi Toney that went barely through his hands. If he would that one on top of that, you're talking about 6 completions for like 260-ish if you add in, again, the negated play on top of that. So that cool. CJ Daniels, second drive, blur over to the top. I was really confused. Like, I know that he kind of dove for that ball or like leaned forward for that ball. I thought that he could have caught that ball and kept going and scored on that first post route. But whether it was him, whether it was Malachi Toney, tight ends combined to have like 6 or 7 catches between Bauman and Lofton. I know that those were more in the flatter short area, but still, people were asking for tight end receptions. You had that, and you had the thing that I've been looking for, the blur, the explosive play, the nuclear bombs like that that flea flicker after the turnover.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous to see, Brian.
Yeah, it's funny that, we spent the last few weeks talking about, hey, we need those X plays. We need the nuclear plays. Like, where are they? And, we're recording this Monday evening, and Miami did us a favor and gave us some press availability today via Zoom with Mario, Corey Heatherman, and Shannon Dawson. And Shannon said, "Listen,
even though it's a bye week, which is
correct. Normally during bye weeks we don't get anything, but so this was like a nice little cookie for us." But Shannon Dawson talked about, hey, like, we heard all week them talking about wanting to stop our run. Okay, like we're gonna hand it off to just because you got to, but. They brought their safeties down in the box, which left their corners on islands, and their corners weren't good enough to cover CJ and Malachi Toney. So we took advantage, and they did. And I do listen, we could talk about CJ Daniels and especially Malachi Toney for years. He's so good. And Will. By the way, I love that his mom tweeted out, hey, we're renaming this place Malachi.
Yeah, because they were so rude to me and to us and everything going up here. Malachi. Yeah.
Malachi, yeah.
On,
and it was a great moment, by the way. In this video that I'm putting together, you'll see I was literally right there as Malachi jumped into the stands to give his mom a big kiss and a hug. It was awesome. Awesome. It was really good to see. But while we can talk about the receivers, I really want to talk about Carson Beck for 1 second.
Let's do it.
Because I was really, if you look at his numbers at Georgia, at away games, it was not good touchdown to interception ratio. It was backwards. It was more interceptions and touchdowns on away games only at Georgia. I think just last year. And I was a bit worried about him playing on the road in that environment against Florida State. And he was dealing, and he didn't make mistakes. And that, to me, is a really big story and shows his growth, but also now we need to, listen, Cam Ward was really special, a special talent, but now you have to understand that Miami's offensive coordinator, Shannon Dawson, and their entire offensive staff, who works with the quarterbacks and what have you, is doing a damn good job. And it should be noted nationally that they're able to take these guys that are already super talented, but may have a few things to correct, and they're correcting them when they get here to Miami. And Carson Beck is along those same lines. Did a hell of a job on Saturday night.
Yeah, he really did, and he answered some questions. I know that he had that interception against Florida up the seam that floated a little bit. And this is the first game Miami's played that has not had any element of rain during the day. All the 4 home games, at Hard Rock, it was there was some rain, even if it was earlier or whatever. There was a little bit of moisture, and I'm not excusing the performance against Florida. I've already said that was arguably the worst game he's ever played. Full stop. Period. End of story. Boom. That being said, he came out and he answered a bunch of questions. When he had that early miss on that slot fade to Malachi Toney on the first drive of the game, I said, oh, he's all right. Now, he's never had, a Josh Allen, Matt Stafford kind of cannon for an arm. He's a very good arm, but he's not like the strongest arm in the way. Ryan Mallett.
Just to put it in Miami Hurricanes terms, he does not have a Stephen Morris arm.
There you go. Definitely not a Stephen Morris type arm. But he was slinging that thing, and he was fitting it. Look, even if it was the third down conversion to Malachi Toney, when he drove that ball, for 8 yards, but then it's just laser, and then he let Malachi spin for the first down on the first scoring drive, things like that. And then you and I couldn't deliver, hand place the ball on the flea flicker any better than Carson threw it.
No.
It was, we talked about in the Notre Dame game about that first touchdown to Malachi Toney, rolling to his left stop, kind of threw it, against his body. Malachi kept working, and went to go find the ball and make a play. on that flea flicker, all he did was run and just keep running. And then that ball is right there.
That was a pro throw.
It was a perfect throw. Then you look at the earlier one, like I said, to CJ Daniels on the first post down the first big shot that we hit down the middle of the field. Again, couldn't have been more perfect. And I really think, having rewatched it for writing the piece that I posted today, I really think CJ Daniels could have stayed up and scored on that one. So you're looking at Carson Beck delivering dime after dime after dime in these places. Now, and that's also admitting there were a couple of throws that were completions that were maybe a step or a half step behind the optimal place for that ball that might have scored if those were a little bit better. The final fourth down of the game, for example, when they had Malachi Toney on that that slot cross flat thing, and everything. That play scores if the ball finds Malachi Toney. And Malachi Toney bumped into a lineman and got up. Yep. But if that play gets complete, buddy, cue up the band, change the scoreboard. He's there. And there's another couple in the field of play that were completions, maybe even for a first down. But if that ball is even more accurate, then those still score. So, I mean, even with the kind of performance we saw from Carson Beck, there was still meat left on the bone in terms of what this passing game and offense overall could and should have done on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it was really a clinic for most of the game for Miami and offense. And people will look at the running stats and be, if they didn't watch the game, if they just looked at the box score, and be displeased. But you have to understand, Florida State was literally doing everything they could, aside from literally putting more men on the field from the sideline. Like, they were doing literally everything they possibly could to not let Mark Fletcher or Marty Brown or Jordan Lyle carry the ball and get yardage. It was, a matter of fact, someone, a TV anchor from Parts Unknown, I didn't really pay attention, was sitting next to me in the press box and just kept saying, Miami's running backs are just getting blasted, and when they run into the line of scrimmage, and I'm like, yeah, because the entire FSU defense is there waiting for them. So don't be dissuaded by the rushing stats. Look, Shannon Dawson was going to hand the ball off to take some of the pressure off of the passing game, even if they weren't going to be big gainers in the run game. It still had to happen, but the passing game was it was a clinic. It was really good. A couple of interesting notes on the offense, and then we'll take a break and talk about the defense, was Miami, I think, only had 59 plays, which is not a lot for a college football game. I think FSU had 83 or something like that. And when you look at the time of possession, Miami did own the time of possession, which I thought was huge by a little bit, not by much. I personally, I thought they would have to really own the time of possession by a lot to have this kind of a successful performance against Florida State, considering the offense that Florida State has, or the style of offense that they have. And then the other thing about the offense is, I think if you look at the participation chart and you look at who caught passes and who was even targeted, in other games, we were talking about setting records for how many people caught a pass in a quarter, 10 in a quarter and what have you. It was pared down in this game. There was a lot less personnel being used on offense, but who was being used were very successful in what they did. So that was an interesting note from the offensive side of things, I think.
Yeah, there were two receivers who had catches. We've already mentioned them, CJ Daniels, Malachi Toney. There were two tight ends, already mentioned them, Elijah Lofton and Nance Baldwin, and two running backs, Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle. That's it. So other guys played.
Well, Tony Johnson and Keelan Marion each got targeted. Tony Johnson got targeted twice. Keelan Marion got targeted 3 times. But, I mean, again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the whole game. Like, we're talking in previous games, Miami hit or had 10 guys catch a pass in a quarter.
Right. Yeah. It was different. It was definitely pared down. This was definitely we appreciate you on this roster, and you're going to have a bright future. Starters only today, boss. Sorry. Like I said, I saw Joshua Moore on the field with my eyes for like 2 snaps. He wasn't listed on the official participation report, but like maybe he was on for a play that got a penalty and that doesn't count or whatever. But like I saw him get like maybe a handful. Like I remember 2 snaps for Joshua Moore. Joshua Moore, who's incredible and scored touchdowns in other games and is going to be a great player here. This week in Tallahassee, bro. Sorry, boss. This ain't the spot for you right now. So don't please think that we don't like you, that you don't have a future, that you don't fit, but we're playing starters only this week. And it has to be what it has to be. Now, yeah, the only thing that I will say, and you make some really great points about the offense, clearly. The only thing that I'll say is this is another week leaving more points on the field.
Yep. No, you're right.
And
could have easily been 28-0 or 28-3 at the half.
Could have been 28-3. Look, if you have the Malachi Toney touchdown, right, which scored and got called back. You had the Keelan Marion reverse, which he was so, oh my God, I almost made a very inappropriate comparison. He was very, very excited to get open space there and have the blockers in front of him. He literally outran his coverage. If you slow play that for another 3 steps and let the lineman get down the field, that scores. You know what I mean? And there was like a couple, like there were times, and we're going to talk about the defense. Ruben Bain got tackled by 2 dudes in the end zone for holding.
Oh, yeah.
At 28-11. That wasn't called. That's another 2 points.
That's 2 points, yep.
I'm just saying, that's 16 points right there. You know what I mean? And I think Shannon Dawson, he even said like there was another, one that was like somewhere in there. And if you add that, that's 23 points. That's almost double what we scored left on the field for all time. So when people long down the line look back at the story or look back at the score list and they see Miami 28, Florida State 22 in the 2025 game up in Doak Campbell Stadium, they'll be like, oh, well, that was a competitive. No, this was an ass kicking. We demolished and destroyed them people. And then the fourth quarter happened. But this is no way in like, no matter what numbers you look at, from the official scorebook, from the stats page, from the scoreboard, none of that tells the story of how dominant a win this was. And that's a problem.
Yes, totally agree. 1,000%. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, I just have a couple observations that I have just from being at the stadium, at the game, that I want to get to. Plus, we need to talk about the defense. We will do that and more on the other side. You're listening and watching the Real Ones Canes podcast. All right, we're back here on the Real Ones Canes podcast as we talk about Miami's win over Florida State. And Miami is the state champs. Miami are the state champs, I should say. Proper grammar is good. He is Cam Underwood, managing editor, StateOfTheU. I am Brian the Beast London.
Did you add extra R in my name, Underword or something? Did I hear? Anyway,
Word.
It works. Word. What up?
Let me try it again. He is Cam Underwood, managing editor, StateOfTheU. You can follow Cam Underwood at Underwood Sports on the Twitter. I'm Brian the Beast London. You can follow me at Miami Radio Beast.
You sound like the professor of diction and pronunciation, of which I had to take 4 different classes in music school at the University of Miami. But
of course,
it happens when you're a singer and you get to sing all these different languages. But yeah.
True. Let's talk about State of the U because it's free. It's open 24/7, 365. And it is a great place to go get all your Canes stuff. And there it is right there with Carson Beck right on the front page. And there's Cam talking about how happy he is to have the X-Plays back.
Come on, man. Like, you got to have explosive plays. Already whipped that up. Got another couple things coming for you guys this week, so be sure that you are locked in for that. Our story stream is still up with all of our content from last week, including that play or piece because it was in there for the recap of Miami and Florida State. So the story stream is there. Also, a bit of news that we can talk about, Brian. The Miami Hurricanes and South Carolina Gamecocks have canceled their future series because both the ACC and SEC are now moving to 9-game conference seasons. So this was deemed as the extraneous game by both teams. It is mutually decided to cancel that. Miami still has FAMU, Central Michigan, good old directional Michigan, and Notre Dame on the road. The first two are at home, and then Notre Dame on the road as their non-conference. But that piece of news, canceling a series that was first announced in 2019 that will not come to fruition. And then even more, Craig T. Smith back with his Monday Musings, our top 25 recap, the film review. And I didn't see that we used the same picture for both those pieces. Well, mine went up early in the morning, so whatever. But the film review from the win, good, the bad, the ugly, 3 stars, the recruiting rules, and more, just a click away, StateOfTheU.com. Please come on over and fan with us. It's really good stuff, and I think that you'll like it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We always love all the info and stuff on StateOfTheU.com.
And yes, not to bury the lead, this guy over, here, him, he's doing a video diary from his weekend traveling to and the experience up in Tallahassee, and he's graciously going to share it with all of you and us at StateOfTheU.com. So the Real Ones Game podcast, going on to the website, making a guest starring appearance. Let's not bury the lead there, man. This is the superstar, so come on.
We include not 1, but 2 stops at the Okahumpka rest stop off on the turnpike.
Let's go. I need that. There was something else I asked for. I'm not gonna. Don't spoil it for me. I want to see if there's the car karaoke in there as well because I didn't specifically request it. I said don't ruin it for whatever. Well, I'll just have to accept that. So, anyways, all of that and more great fun stuff. StateOfTheU.com, even through a bye week because we got more coming.
Listen, I am never one to give credit to Florida State for anything other than their film school because my son is applying to their film school. So, hey, great film school. Hope he gets in. Only 15 or 20 kids get in. So, we'll see. But
music's pretty good too.
Yeah, I will say this. They renovated one side of their stadium. I think it's the west side, but it's one of the directions, west, hopefully. And they did a fabulous job. They really did an unbelievable job. I don't know. You've never been to Doak Campbell. I've been there too many times. It was antiquated in the bowels of the stadium, to say the least. It was getting very Orange Bowl-ish as far as, hey, this is past its prime. We need to do is upgrades. And they did other than knocking the stadium down and rebuilding a new one and only being able to refurbish one part at a time so they didn't miss any spring games or football or any of that stuff. Right. They did a great job. They added this field level club on the sideline, on the home sideline, where you could, if you have passes there, you can walk out basically just behind the bench almost, and basically reach out and touch players and wave and be see what it's like to be on the field. And then behind that, inside is this amazing bar, restaurant, upscale situation. And then they added some really cool sports bars and stuff inside the stadium that they're really cool ideas. So, and something I've been to a lot of college stadiums. I haven't really seen this sort of, it's really more NFL-ish than college-ish, but they did a good job. So I just want to give them credit for that because I can't tell you how many times I've been walking through that stadium and going, this place is not great. It's getting old. And they did a good job refurbishing. So props to them on that. The other observation I had is, from field level, when we got to go, the press gets to go down with 5 minutes left in every stadium except for Hard Rock because #Miami. So got to go out on the field, 5 minutes left, and comparing player to player, Miami is physically bigger.
It's there finally. You know, it's just Gone are the days of Trevor Darling and Casey McDermott, who are guards.
Great players.
Wonderful alums. Both of them played in the league.
Correct.
They're guards, not tackles. And
Correct.
we had to play up, with non-standard size. Mario Cristobal and company are hitting and exceeding the physical prototypes, especially at the line of scrimmage. And that's really where you see the difference in size there. And a linebacker. We had safeties basically playing linebacker for the longest time when compared to other big-time college football programs. But now, especially offensive line, defensive line, and then linebacker. And you want to extend that out? Mark Fletcher, 6'2.5", 230. Marty Brown, 5'11.5", 225. Like, we got dudes, like real big dudes across the field, and it's impressive.
It's evident. Yeah, it is evident. No doubt about it. All right, let's talk about the defense. Like the first drive, I was a little upset in the moment about the first drive because Florida State got out there and drove down the field, but only got a field goal. And then several of my fellow members of the press during a timeout or after the field goal basically were like, oh, okay, well, Florida State were successful because they had a script and they practiced those 15 plays 4 million times. And they were able to put that script into things. And now let's see what happens when the script is done. And sure enough, for the next 2.5 quarters, Miami's defense basically pitched a shutout. And then the fourth quarter happened. And Corey Heatherman talked about it today in the press conference that we got on Zoom. Hey, like, guys blew it. Like, we had the right calls in. Castellanos, I'm going to call him Castellanos, even though he goes by Castellanos because his mother's heavy Cuban. So we're just going to go with Castellanos. He's running around doing loop-de-loops, and guys drop their coverage.
Yep.
And you can't have that happen. So
it's literally the same thing that we saw from Mo Toure against Notre Dame when he dropped his coverage looking at CJ Carr. All of a sudden, tight end gets a 65-yard gain, and they ended up tying the game later. I mean, a couple plays later in that drive.
Yes.
Because he lost his discipline, his eye discipline, and he was like, maybe I'll go make a play. Stay with your man. And that was the thing, really, that was pervasive in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't every play, and it wasn't every guy. But if all 11 guys are not doing their job, that's what happened. You had 3 fourth down conversions on the same drive, 19 plays, 96 yards, when you could have gotten them up off the field multiple times. Like, beyond just the fourth downs. Like, there were third down conversions. There were third downs that made it, like where they got enough yardage to make it fourth and manageable, not fourth and a mile, so they're going to punt it. You know what I mean? It was just like, there were enough issues around that it was a problem, and it didn't look the way that it needs to look. I am who I am, and you guys love me, right? Cool. There's a video up on YouTube called "What an A Sounds Like in Music" as a former music director, and it's a high school band, and what they do is they say, "Cool, an A is 90% grade in a regular classroom. Each player in this band play 1 out of every 10 notes wrong, whether that's the pitch, whether that's the duration, you're holding it too long, it's sharp flat, but just pick 1 out of every 10 notes across this band and everybody play it to 90%, and it sounds like a 4th grade beginning band class. It is unrecognizable to like coherent music, right? And then if you play it the right way, when you're playing to 99% plus accuracy, because in music you go towards mastery, it sounds like music. That's what the defense was. It was an A on grade. If you have 10 out of 11 players on the field doing their job, that's 91% accurate. That's an A every single day, except for that one guy dropped his coverage, and now we get a fourth down conversion, and then somebody else missed their coverage, and now we get 5 yards, and then somebody else on the next play. It doesn't have to be a whole system failure for it not to meet standard. That's the pursuit of excellence that this defense and this team is, chasing. And the those minor detail failings are the things that unfortunately came together to make this score look far more competitive than the game actually was.
Yeah, I listen. I missed some of the fourth quarter because I was en route. By the way, just to like take you behind the scenes. So Cam can explain to you how easy we have it at Hard Rock, right? We want to go interview the Miami Hurricanes after the game, post-game press conference. We get to the elevator, we go downstairs, we come out of the elevator, we make a left, then a right, then a left, and boom, we're right in the press conference room. It's like, it's 2 minutes away.
It's literally, he told you the exact path, turn by turn. That's how quick it is.
Yeah, it's right there. At Doak Campbell, if you're interviewing the visiting team, you have to choose one of two elevators on a far side of the stadium. Go choose one of them. Okay. Go downstairs, and now you have to go outside of the stadium. Okay. Then you have to go make your way through barricades and security again, who are going to yell at you because you're not supposed to be able to come back into the stadium. But I'm media. Well, we didn't get word from our boss that we can let you in. And let me get the Tallahassee police to see if you're okay. Are you okay? Yeah, I think you're okay. Okay. Now you're in the bowels of Doak Campbell, right? You're basically on the first level concourse. And now you have to battle all of the fans who are leaving early because their team's losing to go around literally a half of the stadium, right? Around to the other side of the stadium, back in onto the field through another gate with security. And then you're going to get yelled at again by 27 other security guards because they didn't get the memo, even though they do this every game. And then you have to go to the right holding spot on the far sideline. And then the players are going to go into the tunnel. And then you have to wait for you to get the okay to walk into the tunnel. But you're dealing with equipment people that are moving big, large cases of things onto the truck. Yes. So you have to avoid being smashed by that, where you will whittle your way into the tiniest media room that, like my bedroom, which is just the average size bedroom, is twice the size of the room that we do interviews in at Florida State. There's maybe 8 chairs, and when you have a big game like Miami and Florida State, there is definitely more than 8 people that cover the game. And so it got to the point where Mario Cristobal was trying to make his way to the press conference, and like Ed Hudak, who is the chief of police for Coral Gables, who does team security, basically had to move journalists out of the way in order for Mario to get to the microphone. It's a cluster. Okay. It is an absolute cluster. But so that's why I missed a lot of the fourth quarter, because I was dealing with all of that. So I missed a lot of the comeback or whatever. But when I got downstairs and I was talking to members of the media, to like photojournalists that are allowed to be there the whole game on the sideline, they basically said like, yeah, like this Castellanos guy it's basically him. It's just entirely him. Oh yeah. He's the entire FSU situation, and he's just running around trying to make things happen. And I was like, okay, like I get it. Desperate times, desperate measures. We still win.
Look, that has been their MO since Norvell got there. The thing about it is they had Jordan Travis, who I host another show, and I had a former FSU player come on in the preseason, and he said Castellanos is I heard one thing. I heard quicker and better.
Okay.
He said what than Jordan Travis. I took it and I said he's not better than Jordan Travis. That dude actually scared me because he scrambled to throw, and then he was like, no, what he said was he's faster in a straight line as a runner than Jordan Travis, which I'll give you, but that doesn't really matter. You have to have the throwing component, and like just the tone of the tenor of the conversation. I was just like, dude, you honestly, even during the preseason, I was like, if you're making this comparison, you're devaluing Jordan Travis because Castellanos is not on the same caliber of player. And you saw that. I mean, he's throwing grounders. He's missing wide open dudes.
Cam,
they were definitely on the.
He threw the ball 45 times, and there was only 25 completions. He missed on 20.
And the 20 that he missed were bad.
Yes,
they were bad. Like, I mean, guy on the sideline, and he's sailing it into the back of Ed Hudak or whomever is doing. You know what I mean? Like, he's just. Like there's guys, people over there. He hit, Michael Irvin in the hands with one, like almost Holly Rowe on the sideline. Like, he's missing throws all over the place. And yeah, we're like, cool, you got to do that. Now, the first drive, they had the script and they did find some interior running lanes, which Gus Malzahn offenses want to do. But then you close those down, and then it's Tommy Castellanos versus the world. And there's a tweet that I put up at like 2:00 in the morning on Sunday. Because I was still up and I was riding the Storm Center and I was just riding the high of the game win and everything. And I
wasn't even back to my hotel yet.
Oh, so yeah, we could have talked on the phone. Anyways,
could have.
I saw somebody tweet out a video, and it's still up on my Twitter at Underwood Sports. And it's early in the game, and Castellanos pulls a zone read, runs to his left, and the camera's behind him, and it pans to the left, and it's like something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon. Because as soon as the camera pans left, there's Ruben Bain waiting for him, and you just hear the air brakes just, oh God, and then he tries to go back the other way, and literally Bain shoves Mesidor, who kind of overran the play, to go tackle him, and there's big David Blay there, and you see somebody else coming the other way, but it was just so crazy, because he's like, cool, I'm going to run. Oh God. And
you know what it reminded me of? I know exactly what you're talking about. You know what it reminded me of? Is, did you ever see the movie Unnecessary Roughness?
I sure did.
Okay. Blow the whistle! Blow the whistle!
It was very that tweet, that simple tweet where I just put, like, I quoted it. It was like LOL, that I just described it. Is doing such numbers on social media. Like, I have not had a tweet with this many reposts and retweets, quote tweets, saves, like, and it's the simplest stupid thing of somebody else's video. And I was just like, this is crazy, because like it's super funny when you see it. It just goes and like, just blow the whistle. Oh my God. And it's just, it's taking so much traction. And that is, I mean, not a credit to my content creation skills, because like I was literally kind of, it's like whatever, it's 2:00 in the morning, but also the quality of the defense that I mentioned Ruben Bain being there and did not mention 4 other dudes who were swarming to the ball. And I mean, just like, dude, Ruben Bain had 11 pressures by his lonesome.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Florida State had their worst pass rushing blocking grade in like 25 years. Oh, sorry, third worst in this game against man. Like I said it before, they can't block us. Now, they did better in the run game defeating Miami's blocks because they were walking 7 and 8 down every single play. But I said they couldn't block us on defense, whether it was David Blay, whether it was Justice Scott, whether it was Akeem Mesidor, whether it was Ruben Bain, whether it was Keontae Scott blitzing off the corner, whether it was Jacoby Thomas coming on a safety blitz where they walked down a double mug. It didn't matter who was getting up the field. They couldn't block us. And if you can't do that, then that's going to take the offense apart. And then, it's going to be Castellanos against the world running for his life. And we saw how that worked.
I can't tell everyone who's listening how lucky we are to have a healthy Ruben Bain and a healthy Akeem Mesidor playing at this level at the same time. Like it's a blessing.
I will say this, and like I initially pushed back on it, and the more I've thought about it in the last hour, I think they might be right. Dan Lebitard on his radio show said there is potential if they keep playing this well that Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor will be the best edge rush duo in a single season in Miami Hurricanes history. And I was like, nah, it's not that. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, most of our super duper stars have been, I mean, there's been like one at a time on the edge.
Sure.
But it's really been
Campbell,
interior.
Right? Like you'll get a Calais Campbell, but who's on the other side?
Right, and he would play outside inside because he's 6'8", and he can
correct. Yes,
same thing with Gregory Rousseau, who played outside and inside, even though he was thin, but he was long and twitchy, and like guards couldn't block him. But if you look back at Jerome Brown, God rest his soul, or Russell Maryland, Sapp, a lot of these Vince Wilfork and things, you've had more duos and like group success at defensive tackle in one year than I think Bain and Mesidor are presenting. So, like, my initial thought when I heard Le Batard say it, I was like, man, nah, miss me with that. And I thought about it. I'm like, it's usually been like one guy at a time on the edge for Miami. It's both of these dudes. And they played, Florida State had 83 offensive snaps. Both of those dudes played 79 or 80 snaps on defense. They didn't come off the field. You know what I mean?
Like Cristobal Mario talked about that at the press conference today, where he's like, "Hey, I asked Jason Taylor, how many snaps did you play in the NFL?" And he's like, "Dude, all of them." So he's like, "Okay, well then our guys are going all of them."
And like that, he was just like, "So like, did you ever come out?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Okay, so are they good to do that?" And this again harkens back to what Cristobal has said all year long. And obviously you've been to one more presser than I have, because I didn't go to this game in Tallahassee. But think after the Notre Dame game, what did Cristobal say? They are taking care of their bodies. They've dropped the weight. They're working on their conditioning outside of practice and inside of practice. They bust their butt on every single rep because they get their conditioning as they play. And then against Bethune, you see how these guys play because they don't ever quit. And then against USF, you see how they work, and they do it every single time. And they work on pursuit, and they work on their conditioning in practice, every drill like it's their last one. And then against Florida, every week, Cristobal has given us not even the crumbs, but like the full meal of both Bain and Mesidor do their work all of the time. They don't take plays off. They bust their butt in practice. They get their conditioning at every single opportunity and more, so that they're ready to make every single available play. And then this is now the fruit of that work. Because when you're playing an up-tempo offense, when you're combating, I left the stats up. How many plays, Lord God, did Florida State? They ran 35 plays in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And like Bain and Mesidor were on the field for like 32 or 33 of them. You know what I mean? Like you see the work, and you've heard about it time and time and time again. If you didn't believe what Mario has fed us for the first 4 weeks about these guys being in shape enough to play every single snap, there you go.
Before we wrap this one up, can we listen? We could talk about those two guys forever, and you mentioned some of the other guys up front, but can we talk about the back end of the defense, and especially Keontae Scott? 11 total tackles. He was lights out. I know that Wesley Bissanth had a great game. Poyser had a great game. Jacoby Thomas.
That's the one.
Love the addition of that guy. It's not just the front is my point. It's a total defensive situation.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I mean, if you look at 3 transfers this year, up at the top of the chart for tackles and just impact. Keontae Scott led the team with 11 tackles, and he was everywhere. And he's another guy that was asked about in today's presser. Look, no matter what we want to do from the slot, from nickel, he can do it. You want to blitz, you want to play man, you want to play zone, you want to play robber, this is a guy who can do it. He's that multifaceted, that multi-talented, and he's incredible. And he's a guy that I've singled out previously, but he jumped off the screen when watching this game. And then Jacoby Thomas, who only had 5 tackles, but also a sack, a TFL, an interception, 2 PBUs, and a forced fumble, which that one was not recovered. Sorry. The other one was not. So you did all of that. And even though Keontae Scott, in our minds and hearts, led the way, Jacoby Thomas was ACC Defensive Back of the Week.
Yeah, it was.
You know what I mean? So, and even with the numbers, there was even more impact that Corey Heatherman talked about him being there in coverage, him being there as a spy, Jacoby Thomas being in places to make the ball find somebody else.
So that is actually a thing that I think we forget to talk about, right? Which is if a defensive back is that good, he's not necessarily going to show up in the stats because he's shutting them down or not giving the look that will allow a quarterback to throw in his direction. So that needs to be talked about because that's important.
Absolutely. And, Heatherman said it. He was like, yeah, I mean, look, and I gave you the stats. He filled the stat sheet from front to back, top to bottom. But even more than that, look, they're trying to scheme up some trickeration, or they're trying to get somebody somewhere. That PBU up the sideline towards Deuce Robinson when Thomas is playing, in a curl flat, kind of a hook defender thing, and read Castellanos' eyes and said, I'm going to take a step and a jump, and I'm going to get there and tip that ball out of bounds and make y'all punt. Buddy, what a play that was. I mean, he was everywhere. And even with the stats you saw, his presence in more situations than the stats would even tell you made FSU put the ball somewhere else so as not to turn it over or put it in harm's way going towards number 8 again. Yeah, and just really, really incredible stuff. Again, the entire defense. And I know the shenanigans of the fourth quarter, but man, that was it was true and total dominance for the first 48 minutes of the game.
Yep, Joaquin said dominate, and they did. So there you
sure
go.
Did.
All right, Cam. It is a bye week, so we've got that to look forward to. We'll record an episode later in the week. I really want our fans to interact with us. YouTube is starting to pop with some good comments.
Okay.
So I want our fans to chime in. What do you want us to cover in the bye week episode? We'll do it later in the week, maybe Friday. So you got a few days to chime in.
Sure.
What do you want us to cover? I will say this. I'll put an asterisk. We don't know what's happening with JoJo Trader. Is he hurt? I don't know. What have you? He was supposed to be ready to play. He didn't play. He wasn't on the participation chart. I don't know. I don't really feel like speculating, even though I could. Cam definitely could speculate if he wanted to, and he did before we started recording. But I have no idea. We have no official word, and in the only press availability we'll have over the next week, no one asked about it. So there you go.
They asked in general, were there any lingering injuries from the game? Because I get it. I know. I'm just giving the information to the people. I'm not trying to rile you up. I'm sorry. What I will say is, and this is going to get clipped and aggregated, and we shall see. It feels more and more to me, myself personally, Cameron James Underwood, that the playing time train has left the station, and JoJo Trader is sitting there running with his wheelie bag trying to catch the end of the caboose. It very much seems to me like it was there for him in the opener against Notre Dame. We did take a deep shot towards him. It didn't work in that game. And then for whatever reason he missed time, I'm not going to speculate on that. But because of that absence and multiple players stepping up, and not even Malachi Toney, because they can play together, because JoJo can play outside and Malachi Toney is going to kill everybody on the inside. But it continues to seem on the outside to me that with everybody starting to really get their sea legs about them and really starting to move forward at the receiver position, whether that's a Joshua Moore, whether that's a CJ Daniels, a Keelan Marion, a Tony Johnson off the bench who's playing behind Malachi Toney and before both JoJo Trader and Ray Joseph, right? If you take all of those guys and see what they're doing and have done and earning and continuing their playing time, it is feeling more and more like JoJo Trader is the odd man out. And that's what I, Cameron James Underwood, think and am saying about it.
Cam's views do not necessarily reflect the views of the Real Ones Canes podcast.
And that's why I put it out there on my good name, because that's my thought. And it's been my thought. And I will say this thought to Brian and others in the press box kind of quietly for the first month of the season. And this is the first time I'm bringing it to the people. But this is a thing that I have thought. This is me using my years of watching and consuming sports and, sharing my opinion on it. And that's what it feels like to me, because it harkens back to other situations with other players here and elsewhere that I've seen. So that's what my gut feeling is on JoJo Trader. Take it or leave it.
I will say this. It does feel like, just again, to take you behind the curtain, Mario Cristobal and his team will put out a depth chart that we get at the first game of the year on a flip card. Okay. And then for every game after that, it never changes. Even if a guy is, on vacation in Antarctica, not that they would during the game, he will still be on the depth chart as a starter. It doesn't matter. But it feels like a lot of those positions, especially at wide receiver, that are the ors, no matter like 3 guys are listed as this guy or that guy could be the starter. It feels like a lot of those ors aren't really ors anymore. But,
they're definitely not.
So I'm just saying. All right, we're going to get out of here. Hey, guys, please subscribe, please share, please follow, please like, please comment. And again, let us know what you want us to cover on the bye week episode coming up later this week. We'll be happy to dig into those topics that you want us to talk about. So we'll do that and more. Cam, thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure. We'll see everyone next time right here on the Real Ones Canes podcast. Peace.